This week we are talking about shutter speed, and shutter speed, as you can imagine, is pretty easy to understand. It's the speed at which your lens opens and shuts when it takes a picture. Now some lenses, like the one I've got on my camera right now, it can stay open for 30 seconds. Time-lapse lenses can stay open for much longer than that. On the other end of the spectrum, there are what they call fast lenses that imagine trying to take a picture of a hummingbird and its wings, and you want the wings in focus. You want that one shot where the wing is going in a certain direction. You would need a fast lens to capture that image. In order to do that, you would need a shutter speed that it opens and closes really quick, and it takes just that 1 second. Think about your eye, and if you open your eyes and close your eye really quickly, that's a little snapshot, hundredths of a second that you saw something, and that is like stored in your brain. Same thing with your camera. If you were to increase the shutter speed very fast, as it'll go, it will capture just that nanosecond of time. If you leave the lens open, like if you left your eyelids open, you would see a lot of images, right? Same thing with your camera. Now, remember that that also has an effect on how much light is let into the camera. When the shutter speed is very fast, you have the shutter speed up in like the 200s or the 500s, you're letting in barely any light because your camera lens is only open for 5/100ths of a second. Not much light's gonna get in 5/100ths of a second. On the other end of the spectrum, if you left the lens open for 30 seconds, that's a long time. If you left your eyes open for 30 seconds without blinking, you're gonna get a lot of light in your eyes. To demonstrate that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up a camera, and I'm going to just wave my hand in front of the lens, and I'm going to set the camera speed very slow. You'll see a blurry image. And on the other end, I'm gonna set it up to be very fast and click it. You should see my hand in total focus because it took that 1 nanosecond of time where my hand, the subject, was in frame, and it took it focused. Okay, to display the difference in shutter speed, I'm gonna show you my hand passing in front of the camera here. I've got my trusty 5D Mark III, and I'm swapping out the 50mm lens for this larger, what is this one? 24-105mm lens. It's a wide angle lens, so it'll be better for catching the action. Thing to remember about shutter speed is it depends on your situation. What are you photographing? Are you photographing a speaker indoors? Well, shutter speed's not gonna be your priority for something like that. Now, if you're outside and you're photographing action, or you're inside photographing some type of sports action, shutter speed's gonna be your priority. So always remember that based on your situation. Okay, for this test, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to set the focus to be right here. I'm gonna set it to manual focus, right? And I'm just gonna simply wave my hand back and forth and take a picture. Yeah, that's nice and blurry. Okay, now I am going to increase the shutter speed up to 500, okay? And we're going to have to increase the ISO or something like that, okay? Go back to autofocus and focus the length. We'll go right about there. We'll go back to manual focus. Wave my hand. Hey, look at that. We've got a hand in focus. Okay, on screen now, I've got both images of what happened, okay? One side, where the shutter speed was very, very slow, the image is very, very blurry. Why? Because the shutter was open for a longer amount of time. The other image, the one that's in focus, the shutter was very fast. It was not open for very much time at all. It caught that 1 nanosecond of time where the frame was in focus. So by now you probably noticed that shutter speed controls how you want motion or action displayed in your photograph. If the action is fast, sports perhaps, and it needs to be in focus, you are going to need a fast shutter speed. Any sport you can imagine should be pretty fast unless it's curling or maybe bowling, but still you want to focus on the bowling ball, you're going to want fast shutter speed, right? It shows the action in focus, or as it happened in that one moment of time. Slow shutter speed would be for when action is not the focus of your photograph. Think about a waterfall. You know that smooth look to the water you've seen in some photographs? That's how they do it. Slow shutter speed. The shutter is open for a long amount of time and the water is shown as one continuous movement rather than each individual droplet. It can also be used for time-lapse photography, obviously, right? You want to take a picture at night and you want to show perhaps an aircraft going across the sky with its beacon on. Those would be the reasons you would use the slow shutter speed. Now, always remember that just like ISO and just like aperture, shutter speed controls light into your camera. So when there's a fast shutter speed set, very small amount of light, it's going to darken your photograph. You will have to make up for that with ISO and aperture settings. On the other end of the spectrum, if you have a slow shutter speed, it's going to let in a lot of light. You're going to have to make up for that with aperture and with ISO. It just depends on how you want the action displayed. So for this week's assignment, I want you to do two things. First of all, check out the camera simulator. The link is provided here in the discussion post. And check out the effect of shutter speed on your photograph. The propellers will either be in focus or blurry depending on what setting you set the shutter speed to. What's the best way to make one propeller image where there's just one propeller, not a blurry image where the propeller is, one propeller? How do you do that? If you want it blurry, how do you do that? What does shutter speed do to affect that photograph? The second part of the assignment is to submit 2 photos of a subject in motion in focus. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.